Star Wars is a huge franchise, and with Disney, one of the biggest publishers on earth, at the helm, they're churning out content on a very consistent basis. From the books and the comics to the TV shows and more, they're releasing stuff so regularly that it's hard to keep up. So in this video, we're going to summarize the whole year of 2024 when it comes to the major releases from Star Wars, be it the books, the comics, and everything else, of course the TV shows and the movies. With so many projects coming out, it's clear that Disney's aiming to cater to fans of all types, whether they prefer live action series, animated stories, or the expanded universe through written media. So to start off, we have the 2020 run of Darth Vader, with the series finally coming to a close with its 50th and final issue. Its final year was focused on telling the story of a mysterious shadow faction which tried to break away from the Empire and claim power. A very interesting story which we all knew could only end in one way. That's the problem with these comics taking place in that timeline. They should really focus more on content from the time where Vader was newly appointed, like the original comic run in 2015, instead of these later issues, but regardless, the art and storytelling in the final issues were highly praised for their dramatic tension and depiction of Vader's character. All the other major comic lines have also come to a close, with Bounty Hunters closing off the Valent story arc, and the main Star Wars comic having a satisfying but strange concluding issue, where Charles Soule, the author, made the decision to tie together many of the interconnected parts and eras of Star Wars storytelling together, rather than work on a final actual arc for the comic series itself. He did this so that anybody, even if they hadn't read the other 49 other Star Wars comics, could read the final issue, which is a puzzling but nice choice, I guess. It's a bad choice for the people who actually dedicated and read all of the interconnected parts, but I guess, hey, some fans appreciated the accessibility of this approach, while others felt it left unresolved plot threads for dedicated readers. The Dr. Aphra comic series also wrapped up, concluding her arc attempting to stop the corruption and evil. Something cool we did get, though, is comic adaptations of the Thrawn novels. This reminds me of the old Legends days, where the major novels quite often got comic versions which portrayed the events in a really cool way, taking our imagined worlds and turning them to ink. The Thrawn adaptation has been praised for its faithful representation of the original story and dynamic visuals that bring the characters and battles to life. In other comic news, we got adaptations of some of the shows, such as Kenobi, Mando Season 2, and Ahsoka. These got mixed but generally negative reviews, since there's no need for these to be adapted into comic form, and they tend to be quite lackluster. The art from the Obi-Wan comic was especially memed on for how absolutely ugly it is. However, for completionists, these adaptations provide another way to explore their favorite moments from the shows. There were also a bunch of other releases for the High Republic, some junior novels, some young adult, and of course the main adult novels, which are the heart of the series. They've had pretty good reviews, and since the initiative is coming to an end very soon, it's a good time to check it out if you haven't already had the chance to, although me personally, don't do it, it's not worth it, they're pretty terrible. We also had the Bad Batch Season 3 drop, which honestly I couldn't remember because I didn't watch that trash, although many fans didn't see it, and the ones who did seemed to enjoy it, I guess, a bit, but it came to an emotional conclusion to a long-running story over 3 seasons, which started off okay with the very first episode being absolutely awesome, minus some retcons, but it just sunk and the quality just kept getting worse every single week, and fans tuned out. At the end of the day, not many people watched the show, and it didn't have much of an impact on Star Wars fandom or Star Wars hype whatsoever. After that, in celebration of the prequels, we have the Mace Windu and Jango Fett characters getting mini-series comics, which were fun little adventures, and nothing too major for the lore or the greater continuity, which is a big problem for Disney Star Wars. They seem to do meaningless comics because they don't want to tread over other storytellers, but then they just tread over those storytellers anyway, so honestly I'm not too happy with that. But Windu also had his own standalone novel called The Glass Abyss, which was effectively the canon stand-in for his old Legends novel Shatterpoint. It got generally good reviews and told a pretty impactful and good story. Fans of Windu appreciated how the novel delved into his complex personality and showcased his formidable skills as a Jedi. A bunch of the old Legends novels got reprints as part of the Essential Legends collection, such as The Courtship of Princess Leia, X-Wing Wraith Squadron, and Knight Errant. These reprints included the introductions by modern authors, providing context on their place within the Star Wars mythos and their lasting impact on the fandom. Following that, we had a horror-themed Darth Maul comic coming out, depicting Maul's terrifying mission in his early days being a Sith assassin. It's a silly, fun standalone, but I wish they'd do more stuff like this, getting more into these mysterious early times which we barely know about. The unique horror elements and psychological tension made this comic a standout for fans of darker Star Wars stories. The Living Force also dropped, a great book which contained a POV section from each member of the Jedi Council, and each of them were unique and awesome in their own ways, albeit some are better than others. The book provided deeper insights into the diverse philosophies and struggles of the council members, making it a must-read for fans interested in Jedi lore. After that, we have the infamous Acolyte, which released in June, and this show has of course become notorious as one of the worst ever made, with fans seeing it as hateful to fans, downright disrespectful, and absolutely nobody watched it. Regardless of what you think of it, it did fail, and Disney completely canned any possibility of a season 2 thanks to the worst numbers that a Star Wars show had ever seen at the time. However, the Skeleton Crew Crew may be taking that over pretty soon, which nobody's watching, but we'll get to that later. And despite the backlash, The Acolyte did spark discussions on the creative risks that Disney is willing to take with Star Wars storytelling, and basically absolutely destroying the legacy that George created. After that, we got Vader's Inquisitorius getting their own comic miniseries, which was honestly pretty worthless. Just like every other time they've appeared, such as in Kenobi and Star Wars Rebels, the Inquisitors were almost completely useless, and Vader ultimately had to intervene in order to end the threat of a Jedi survivor after Order 66. Really mid to bad reviews on this one, and it's clear to see why. Star Wars Outlaws got a very bumpy launch, receiving largely mediocre reviews, but receiving some updates to smooth some things out, despite some issues with the forced stealth segments and sometimes an empty feeling world and generic story. There are moments where the beauty of the game shines through, and some people have been able to really enjoy it. Me personally, didn't even play it because there was no hype. There was no reason for me to play this. It looked terrible, and it probably is terrible. However, if you enjoyed it, please tell me in the comments. I'd love to be proven wrong on that one, and maybe the next Star Wars game can build upon it. The LEGO Star Wars series Rebuild the Galaxy was also released this year, which many fans were looking forward to, and it follows Sig Greenblig, a young nerf herder, and his brother Dev as they stumble upon an ancient Jedi temple and accidentally remake the galaxy by removing a cornerstone brick of the galaxy. The story offers a mix of humor, heartwarming lessons for younger fans, and unique twists on familiar characters and themes. Fans generally like the series for its creative storytelling, engaging new characters and thoughtful themes, while casting some legendary voices such as Billy D. Williams and the absolutely now insane Mark Hamill. Following that, a piece of work called Padawan's Pride got a shadow release, something most of you guys have never heard of before, and even I hadn't up until not too long ago. It's an Audible exclusive audiobook which sees Anakin and Obi-Wan take part in a stressful but fun adventure centering around Anakin's expert pod racer skills. I know it sounds goofy, but it was pretty fun, and it's only a few hours long. Now, a shadow release is pretty much when they just released it on Audible, no marketing, no advertising, pretty much no media release at all. So it was just basically a diamond in the rough that you had to uncover on Audible by yourself, which thankfully I did, and so did my good friend Coruscant Codex, so go check him out. He also did a full breakdown of that. I'm not sure if he's posted it, but he loved the book, and he said it was one of the best released this year, despite only being a few hours long. Now, unfortunately, we did lose some legends of the franchise this year. James Earl Jones, the iconic voice of Darth Vader, passed away in September this year. Obviously, best known for his work in the Star Wars saga, Jones provided voice work for Vader in other projects such as Star Wars Rebels, Rogue One, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and more recent shows through the assistance of AI. Greg Hildebrandt also passed away this year right on Halloween. You may not know who he is, but he's an iconic artist who, alongside his brother, created some of the earliest Star Wars posters, including the UK launch poster of the original 1977 edition of A New Hope. Following that, we also have Skeleton Crew coming out this month, beginning in the 2nd of December. And while it has had some great reviews and is a bunch of fun, pretty much I'm enjoying it so far. It's not the best, not the worst, but I'm enjoying it. It sadly isn't making a splash, or the splash that Disney thought it would or wanted. Despite some amazing set work, decent writing for being a show catered to younger audiences, the unfortunate reality is that it's getting viewing stats so low that it's actually beating The Acolyte for the worst performing Star Wars live action TV show ever. This should be an incredibly hard bar to fall under, but sadly it's barely even making its way into the ratings at all, let alone succeeding to make a lasting impact. In fact, most ratings agencies only give the top 10 of the week, and Acolyte didn't even make it into the top 10, so we just don't know how bad the ratings actually truly were. So this is especially a shame if you consider the fact that fans have had a far warmer response to Skeleton Crew than they had to The Acolyte and other recent releases. I guess it's all riding on Andor to make a proper comeback next year and to save Disney's bottom line, but even season 1 of that initially struggled to pull viewers, only doing so near the end of its run, basically because of great word of mouth. Although just today we basically found out that Andor season 1 and 2 together cost, get ready for it, $650 million, so I don't think they're going to make profit on that, despite how good the show is and how much it grew from its initial viewership. I don't think they can pull $650 million out of the bag. But anyway guys, that is every major release to come out of the Star Wars franchise in the year 2024. What are your thoughts on these various pieces of media? Personally, I was never the biggest fan of The Bad Batch after the first season's massive blunder in storytelling. I also can't say I love The Acolyte, although a lot of people claim it's hatred for political reasons. The simple truth is that it was just a very poorly made show, from writing to the cinematography. Even the acting was pretty terrible, but there were some gems like Soul, who was amazing, and the whole conspiracy in the finale, but overall it was just a miss. Skeleton Crew hasn't been too bad at all. I'd probably rate it like a 5, 6 or 7, but that's a miraculously high rating compared to the other projects from Disney recently, but it just isn't pulling the numbers it needs to make up for all of those financial missteps on Disney Plus recently. So be sure to let me know what your thoughts are down below. Let me know if you found this kind of video helpful, and if you want to see another next year, or maybe even a preview for next year's content. Drop a like and subscribe for more awesome Star Wars content, and I'll see you in the next one.